All right. So, good morning, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon. We're gonna wait a few minutes to allow everyone to join. So we have people from Texas, Pittsburgh, Beverly Hills, neighbor. I'm in LA. Northern Utah, of course. Hey, Crocs headquarters, awesome. Los Angeles, neighbor. Santa Monica, Bangalore, India, wonderful. Thanks for joining that late. A few more people from LA here. Support team from the Crocs headquarters, great. Wow, UK, awesome. Thanks for joining late too. Okay, I think we're gonna bring Erik here. Erik, awesome. Well, everyone, good morning, good afternoon. Thanks for joining from different continents today again. For another webcast, for those who don't know me, my name is Erik Olson. I'm the founder and CEO of Kinestry. Kinestry is an innovation studio based in Los Angeles that combines emerging technologies and human-centered design to build innovative solutions. Our expertise is in the field of artificial intelligence. We work on blockchain, virtual augmented reality, and lately the metaverse. So I'm really excited to introduce a new guest today to our series of webcasts on innovation augmented. Innovation Augmented is exploring the intersection between innovation as a discipline, design, and emerging technologies. And today, we are introducing a new guest and client, which is Erik Olson. Erik, nice to have you today.
So excited to be here, Erik. Let me tell you, I'm looking forward to the discussion.
Wonderful. You know, what I always like to do is to formally introduce you. So I'm going to read a short bio that I put together here, and that's for our audience. So Erik Olson is the VP of Product Development and Sourcing at Crocs. With a background in engineering, he infuses his technical experience to unlock the unique, forward-thinking creativity of Crocs footwear, like the insanely popular clogs. Under his leadership and vision, his team has created more than 1,000 new styles, over the years, and more than any other company that I know. Every day, he works across a number of different verticals within Crocs, overseeing everything from new product development through manufacturing, including parametric design, innovation processes, and commercialization. All has led to Crocs to become ranked as number 2 on Fast Company's joint venture category of the world's most innovative companies for 2021. So enough to say, Erik, super excited to have you today. And where I would like to start, if you don't mind, is really for you to share your background, your experience, that led us to work for this most visible shoe company today.
Absolutely. So let me just be real clear on one thing. Of all the things you listed, from new product creation to manufacturing and everything inclusive of that, with product costing and quality and all the things that go along with that, I'm actually not qualified to do any of that type of thing. I have the unique privilege of leading a very talented group of men and women around the globe that help keep all those tasks running smoothly and efficiently. So, my experience, it is interesting just in the fact that for most of my career, until prior to joining Crocs, I was in the consumer electronics industry. And I worked for a large contract manufacturing company, and with it, they had a design firm. And I was lucky enough to, through my roles and responsibilities with that company, design, engineer, manufacture product for some of the world's largest OEMs. And that really gave me an opportunity to work within different companies and see how people go to market and how they do things. So when Crocs called, it kind of made sense. It was interesting because they were still in basically startup mode. And it made sense. It kind of matched my talents, and they're looking to build emerging processes, how we go to market, and those type of things. So I have to admit I was intrigued. However, I need to be truthful, transparent. I was a little bit skeptical when I looked at the products. I was like, what is this? It was so disruptive, right? It was such a disruptive product at the time. And to be clear, I didn't understand it, but I was still intrigued by the opportunity there. So got on a plane, went to Colorado, and two things happened. One was the first thing they did, which was very smart, was that they gave me a pair of classics. They said, here, put this on, wear this around today for your interviews. And at that point, I'd never experienced footwear like that. The extreme comfort, everything about it was like, this is interesting. I like this. Still a little bit skeptical, not because of the product itself. The product was phenomenal, but just, is this just a fad? And I asked one of the founders, and he goes, fad? Are you crazy? And he showed me the Crocs website at that time. And at that time, it was all user generated content, and it was testimonials from people around the globe. And from such a diverse background, and using the shoes in the way that they saw fit. And one of my favorite pictures was a person who was at the station down in Antarctica, and he had duct tape over the holes and said, these would be the best outdoor product ever. You need to do that. And right then and there, it connected with me that this was going to be something special, right? And I was like, I'm in. I went home. I went back to the hotel, wearing my very comfortable shoes, called my wife and said, we're moving to Colorado. And that's where we started.
And that was how long ago?
That was actually 16 years ago.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And so what was your first, what was your first priority when you studied at Crocs?
Really, it was at that point, we didn't have a mature go-to-market process at all. And what the process was, me and the founder, we would get on a plane, we'd go and we would develop some new product, and we'd bring it back and we'd give it to our very motivated sales team, because we were growing explosively at that time, say, go sell it. And that's what it did. So it was really start to put some refinement around that, get within the industry and do a seasonal lines and those type of things. So all focused on the new product part of it.
And that was how long ago?
That would have been our first season was spring summer '07, and we created that one in the summer of 2006.
Wow. So can you tell us what, for the moment you joined Crocs to where you are today, what has dramatically changed?
Well, I think it's I guess we get used to that in this day and age, right? That's my buddy Lorenzo saying hi to everybody. So there has been some big changes. There have been some big changes for sure. And I think that the most important thing was really driving that connection and reconnecting with our consumer. So that same consumer group that I was talking about was always there. And like any kind of new brand that's growing, you lose your way. It happens to a lot of companies, and we lost focus along the way.
Can you explain more about what you mean by we lost focus on the way?
We lost track of what our consumer was looking for us, what our brand values were, who we were as an identity. So, we were doing all kinds of different product and different product lines, and none of them were really working that well and that type of thing. And we lost track. So, so the biggest change really is then moving from a product company that's focused on product and sales and that to moving to being a brand that stands for something. We like to say, we listen, we connect with our consumers, and then we evolve. And we're really, like 6 years in that evolution of going back to our consumer, understanding them, connecting them with them in deep, meaningful ways, and proclaiming loudly, come as you are. We're a brand of the people for the people. And that's the biggest change that has really driven to me. Yeah. And for me, it's really fulfilling in a sense that it kind of matched my first walk into the door all those years ago.
It's interesting because us working with you, it's the realization that your brand's what we call 10 brands. Like, you know, it's there's so many communities that love Crocs, and they can be really living in so many different cultures and pop cultures and environments. And what you mentioned, you know, even people work with Crocs, to people like to kids wearing Crocs, but then to all this, you know, phenomenal, you know, culture phenomenon. So going back to your work and your role at Crocs, we frame the subject around innovation and something that, you know, it's quite fascinating and we don't talk much about, which is parametric design. So would you mind, first of all, sharing with us, with the audience, what is parametric design?
Yeah, I think, you know, from the standpoint of parametric design, it's common. It's been around for years, but it's a little bit different for for our industry, for footwear, and it's really the ability to design based on code as opposed to basing your designs on objects. So, you know, for us, we've always been a 3D brand in terms of, like, because of the way we make our product with molding and those type of things, we had to have 3D objects available to do it, but it was really focused on the engineering piece, and we used some standard packages that were around there that made it simple. So parametric design, go ahead.
Yeah, can you give us examples of where typically parametric design is being used, which industry today?
Yeah, I mean, you know, definitely in the consumer electronics industries, aerospace, you know, that really automotive really developed ways to go through and do that, because, you know, the reason we didn't go parametrics right away was because of the fact that, because it's code based, and the challenging part of footwear is not so much the original object, but it's the size and everything that goes with it, that we didn't feel that the tools were up to par for what we needed at that point.
And what is the advantage of using a code-based design compared to, you know, traditional 3D?
Let me explain it a little bit. So a few years ago, our I call him visionary leader of our 3D team, came to me and proposed the ability to go to parametrics. He said, "It's time. We're ready to go." And so the big advantage is it starts here. So this is the last in footwear industry. The last is it's one of the most amazing objects. It's so elegant. I've fallen in love with Last over the years because it defines everything about the shoe. You know, coming from electronics, fixtures were fixtures, and when I first saw Last, I was like, "Oh, this is a manufacturing fixture." It's like, no, you don't get it, Erik. And as I learned over the years, it defines everything. It's the aesthetic of the shoe. It defines the comfort of the shoe. In many cases, it can define the brand, and it defines everything there. So it's what parametrics allows us to do, is to go to the heart of our design, which is this Last. We put everything in there, and then as we add new objects to the Last, or new shoes, new footwear products, we go back, and instead of changing the features on the product, we can go in and change the Last. And what that allows us to do through the codes that we've created is to generate the variations through computer algorithms, as opposed to having people go in and then rebuild all the CADs because we made a Last change.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. And so, what kind of what does that process enable you to do that otherwise you would not be able to do in a traditional 3D design tool?
Yeah, let me try to explain that too, because I think it was a big unlock for us. So, you know, when we think of different things that we can do now that we weren't able to do, it's like, as a brand that sandals is a big initiative for us, and how we get in there. You can imagine, we'd take a simple example of a toe post in a flip flop. We had hundreds of different toe posts and those types of things, right? Because we were building everything unique to that. Is what this allows us to do is take the surfaces that define the product in the flip and automatically generate the most efficient toe post. So we can do things like simulate then the comfort. We can understand that. We can be reusing components, which I think is a big thing that drives some of our goals. And really, it allows us to make some of these decisions that used to be made by the engineer in charge of designing it, made more efficient by just the nature of the geometry and the parameters that you code into your product.
And so when you joined the company, I would imagine you have mainly CAD and 3D designers, you know, in the team. So how easy it was then to kind of jump into something which is, fundamentally very different in terms of skills.
Yeah, it is challenging, and like a common theme as we talk about technologies and emerging technologies is the change management that goes into it. So,
Yeah.
For us, having a 3D team that was experienced in a lot of years with Crocs, changing this is like, it's like learning to speak a new language, essentially. And I can tell you from the very beginning, people were like, when we started to drive this, it was like, this isn't the way to do things. This doesn't work. And then over the course of time, just being I'm really focused on it and driving what the benefits could be, we're able to get a team of people like, I can't believe we ever did it the old way. So, it's change management. You just have to deal with it, go there. And I will add that we're still early on our journey in terms of like really taking this to the next level.
Okay, and what would be then taking it to the next level? What's your vision behind the use of parametric design?
We think that there's, it's an overused term. We hear it a lot, but a digital twin, right? And we think that exploring and unpacking what we can do with algorithms and our 3D and that asset to do more beyond just creating an engineering set so that you can go build a product.
And when you work with the marketing team, I mean, with not the marketing, with the creative team, I guess they're not the one necessarily using parametric design. So how do you manage to foster the collaboration between, kind of a more manufacturing oriented team when they design versus the very creative aspects of, thinking about all these ideas behind the Crocs shoes?
We try to give them the ability to see their works in different ways. The ability to imagine how this product can go. So this is very much illustrative of what a lot of people in the industry are doing, especially over the last couple of years, is being able to take 3D objects and render them. This is what you see on the page is just some examples of some renderings we've done over the last year for a product before we actually made the product. So really trying to give access so that the design and the creative teams and the marketing teams can really start to visualize what we're creating and what we're doing long before you get a sample in a photo shoot and long before you actually make it and get it and bring it in and look at it, say, oh, I get where this is going. This is interesting to me.
So that really allows them like quick visualization of some of the ideas they have. Does it give also information in terms of feasibility, difficulty of manufacturing?
We kind of work on that internally in our team and be there. So we are working on tools that we think will be able to give some idea on that. Think of design for cost or design for sustainability. What's the carbon footprint of the product you're creating, and to have those tools there so that as they're going in and creating 3D objects, they can immediately see what some of the trade-offs and challenges are and understand those clearly.
You were mentioning just before that parametric design can simulate comfort. Can you explain a bit more? Because it's how do we simulate comfort?
So if we go back to the toe post example, it's real simple. There is that we've found that there's a toe post that there's a certain geometry and a certain thickness and materials that we can use and those type of things. So we're able to say put something in, reuse a part of the product. That does the most comfort. We do think that there's a future of where you can simulate more and you can get more understanding of the comfort. You can understand things of what the cushioning is going to be, what your compound choices are going to do for you, how when you put two components together, how they interact and determine the flexibility, that type of thing of your product, because comfort's a combination of many different factors. So really trying to get data and understand how to characterize the different aspects of comfort, and then put them into the models.
And they're using, remember when we were preparing an interview, we explained that is it Boeing who's using parametric design? That's where it's being very extensively used.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the aerospace industry was pushing it early, and like I said, even back all the years ago when I was in consumer electronics, we were using it, and we were just kind of getting our understanding of the advantages of it and how to do that.
That's pretty fascinating. So I would like to go back to this idea of a digital twin, which is really interesting. For some audience, it's pretty new, but most of the time we talk about the existing physical assets when you add a data layer, which is that becomes your digital twin. And then there's tools that we use more and more to visualize this layer through AR and VR. So what is interesting is that you kind of reverse the process where you start from the digital twin first. You should start from the digital layer where you visualize the shoe with the data that leads you to the physical asset creation. So as you reverse that process, what is the benefit to go this way from the digital twin to a physical asset? Can you explain that?
Yeah, there's so many benefits, and really is something that we didn't understand when we started the journey. It's like we were really focused on creating renderings and those type of things to help visualize the product. But halfway through the journey, we're like, hold on, wait, there's so much more we can be doing. In essence, the value add that we create is in the details of the product, and a lot of the activities that go towards manufacturing a product, they need to be done. They're value add because you have to build it that way, but they're not the core essence of what you're trying to do. So how can you then make a digital twin that you can automate through algorithms the creation of some of the things that need to be done, but can be done by a computer much more efficiently? So, the reason why we thought about the digital twin that way is that, we have a global manufacturing partnership all around the world. And we found, in the old days when we first started, it was kind of simple. We'd just go to a few factory groups, we would work with them directly, hands-on, everything, building those out. But it was like, how can we build more collaboration within the tool and get people adding their piece, whether it's computer generated or their input, and then continuing to connect that data layer so that we can create what I consider product more valuable to our consumer at the end.
And so basically like every partners that you work with can actually first visualize what the new shoe would look like, correct? That enables what? Alignments? Are they using then the same information to you package that and you use this information to manufacture it, correct?
Correct. And so that's the thing that I think is super enlightening for us. Is, can you imagine when you're building a product, no matter what the product is, no matter how simple or complicated it is, you have to have work instructions, and you have to know the processes with which it happens. So we spend a lot of time in our existing model of getting a tech pack. That's what we call them in the footwear and apparel industry, a tech pack over to a partner or your manufacturing team, and start to build out those things. And what it entails is taking all the information that you can and building that product the best you can to the instructions you're given.
Yeah.
And then through the process of development and commercialization, you're continually refining those things to either make it more cost effective or make it more manufacturing efficient or design for X, right? Just all the different things that go in there. And the way it's done is through continually manipulating the product down the line, changing maybe the tooling that goes into the product, changing maybe some of the manufacturing fixtures and those type of things. Really, the value we saw was like, how do we start modularizing our designs so that we can have constructions that are there, so that as we make design decisions and put things in, that all that manufacturing instruction is already created automatically. So we don't have teams of people going through and doing this. So when you give a new tech pack, in our mind, it has everything inclusive of not just the bill of materials and the look of the shoe. It has the bill of materials, the manufacturing instructions, those type of things. And then we can continue to simulate our manufacturing to get more efficiency so that we can add more creativity for our design teams, so that they can know within certain boundaries that they can do more things in a very efficient way.
So that's really interesting, because we talk about parametric design for shoes, but you actually also simulating how this is affecting the manufacturing process, correct?
Yes.
Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, because I think simulation is such a important concept for us in this piece. So, I think one of the things that we're looking at, as all other brands are, is how we de-risk our supply chain and how we do these. So, we've been moving to different countries, different regions for manufacturing. We manufacture in region, in different, in Europe and in Mexico and those type of things. And as we scatter out our footprint of what we're doing, how do we ensure that we're giving the best quality and the best product to our consumer? And really it's giving better instructions into how to build this type of thing. So there's definitely the speed to market thing on new things, but there's also just the expansion of your footprint and how you're doing things and how you remain consistent 100%. And that's really having a fully fledged digital simulation of how you build the product and how it goes from there.
Mm. That's fascinating, and that's the reason why I wanted to do this webcast with you, Erik, today, because when we the topic is around innovation and innovation augmented, and most of the time we always spend time talking about consumer facing innovation in terms of technology and what we can do there, but how basically there's so much innovation that goes into enabling actually, as you mentioned when we were preparing interviews, like how do you enable creativity in your teams? Is by removing like the obstacles on their way, so that you kind of facilitating and speeding up the process for them to visualize what is feasible and how it's doable, etc. Which is, I think, really interesting. This, we're talking about innovation. Well, I'd be curious to hear from you, Erik, because you brought this technology in the organization. Where do you see other breakthrough technological possibilities, or where do you see innovation going for Crocs?
Yeah, I think, we're a digital first brand, so we focus on that. So we have innovations across the consumer audience, our e-commerce sites and that type of thing. The technologies that I'm really looking at are how we unlock that manufacturing side. And it's obviously because that's my background. And I think that we can do things. And really, if you think of, say, an older model, it's the manufacturing is kind of the boring piece, the non-innovative piece. It's like, let's get the innovation into the product, let's figure out how to do it and go there. We actually are taking a different way, where we're like, this technology can really open a whole lot of innovation in how we manufacture and do things. And to the title of our talk is Unlocking Creativity. Is we think it's funny, it's like the more rules and boundaries that we can give in certain areas, we can unlock creativity. So I think, from really interesting things from visualizations, within molded product, the use of textures and how you apply graphics and those type of things really can make interesting product, and really being able to give our designers more options. Or think about as you're designing, say, whether it's a new platform clog or something along the product there, we can auto-generate several different options within that still make it to where we can make it extremely manufacturing and extremely efficient globally, but at the same time offer the designers even more creative ideas of being like, oh, I didn't think about that. Maybe, for sure, I don't foresee them taking the generated piece right off, but it will spark the mind to be like, oh, wow, if we could do this, could we do this? And I really think it pushes our whole organization from product creation engines all the way back into to our manufacturing partners of how do we build these things in a way and really be ready for what the emerging consumer trends are going to be in the future.
That's so fascinating, and I guess that's we're discussing this. I guess that's one of the reasons why you've forced so many different collaborations, like the Balenciaga. And I know we cannot share much about this, but any other collaboration that you would like to share with us and talk about how these technological advances made it possible.
Yeah, the innovations have been such a great unlock for us. So this is a great picture of Bad Bunny and his innovation. And
tell us more about that.
Oh yeah, okay. So basically, his idea was super clean to his image and this type of thing. And this imagery just screams that, right? And then you take your white clog, which is a very, very popular product for us, and then did just something excitement, which was glow in the dark bunny charms, right? And so simple, but yet still technology that's not common into the footwear space.
Yeah.
So what we found, what we love about collaborations are one is it's a lot of fun, but we're constantly challenged technically, whether it's, you know, putting faux grass on a shoe or building a very complicated stiletto hill. It always challenges our technical teams and really to go in and build out that thing. So using the parametrics and using our, call it, systematic knowledge that we've had with doing all these type of things, it's actually increasing our bag of tricks, if you will. Like, we can do these things. So we really love it when a designer comes to something that, our collaboration partner comes to us with something that, like, oh yeah, that's going to be challenging, and then you can really see the teams gear up to be like, okay, how do we figure this out?
Can you talk about this one, because it's fascinating too?
I love this one. This is one we did last year with Nicole McLaughlin, and she's a designer that's very passionate about upcycling and sustainability. And so she was working on different things with us, and her idea was, how do you create a survival kit in your Crocs? And so you can see there's a rope, there's your carabiner, there's different things associated with it. And again, it's fun, it's interesting, it really expands the mind in terms of like, well, I never thought of a survival kit in your shoes that you have right there, right? Because
Yeah,
we know a lot of consumers take their classics camping with them. Well, why not have a little survival kit in case you leave the tent in the middle of the night and you need some help, right? So I think this one was just so much fun. And again, it really pushed our technical teams. How do you attach things like this in a way that's going to be robust and can handle the forces?
So how do you approach innovation with your organization? We talk about, okay, technology innovation, but there's always something that I'm interested to hear is how do you preserve a mindset of innovation, and how do you foster this within an organization, especially in one that is, you know, it's growing so fast?
Yeah, well, I mean, we're a company built on innovation, so it's in our DNA. We like to say we're imaginatively innovative, and that goes across all the different teams. So, you know, I think when we look at some of the things that our marketing team's been doing, it's incredible. Our product teams continually keep us driving in terms of new innovations and things of how we decorate our product or how we look at that. So, you know, to foster that spirit is we have that open door policy of like, no idea is too bad. You know, because I think honestly, 10 years ago, if someone would have came and said, let's make a survival kit on our shoe, we'd be like, what? But now we're really into this mode. And as we see more product and more things coming out there, it just continually sparks like, oh, what if we can do this? Oh, what if we can do that? So, you know, it's really a company-wide value. And then we try to hold it by really pushing people to continue to think and push the boundaries and really look at new ways that we can solve, in a lot of cases, new problems.
Yeah. And there's something we discussed also the last time about open innovation. Can you tell us more about the company's point of view around open innovation?
Yeah. So, you know, this is something when we actually were able to peel off a small dedicated team within the company to focus on innovation, starting with product innovation, but just trying to branch out with all the other groups to understand what people are doing in their innovative spaces and seeing how we can connect some dots and those type of things. And the biggest thing we were passionate about was open innovation. The first that we said, this is just the table stakes, is that we're not arrogant enough to believe that we know all the answers to everything. As a matter of fact, when you talk to someone like me, you'll go, wow, he doesn't know anything, right? So we figured that the best thing we could do is go out there and connect with more people and get ideas and work together and really like push across industries. So one of my favorite slides was a picture of an old innovation lab with all the professors, PhDs and white coats and all this, and the privacy that it consumed and all that type of thing. And the idea of a dark room where just a few small select people are working on innovations and coming up with things. We're like, that's not how innovation works. It's like connecting the dots and finding out what people are working on and being open and being like, yeah, we can do that. Let's work on that. And like I said, I think working across industries is something that's been really important for us, just because we're in the footwear space, but we don't need to focus with footwear companies on what innovations could be. We can focus on many different areas, much like parametric design.
Absolutely, and there's going to be actually a lot of questions coming after that relates to what we're discussing. So I gotta just guys, keep the questions for later. Keep putting them
Okay.
here, and we're gonna go through that. So I just want to ask you a last question. I mean,
Hmm.
today, if we look at this and this right now, I want the backstory of this, but yeah, Crocs has become such, you know, a culture phenomenon. And it's everywhere. I mean, literally everywhere, and especially this year. I mean, there's so much visibility. So how do you guys, I mean, this is, how do you guys stay grounded, and how do you cope with such a success? And is it like overwhelming? But what's the trick here to stay grounded for you?
Yeah, it's a great question. I do think that, you know, I think that there's a couple simple ways to stay grounded, and what we do is, like, you know, there's enough of us that were here when we weren't a cultural success, right? When we were struggling to find our way and understand what we do. So being a company founded on innovation, we understand that other companies are innovating, people are coming, and there's going to be new ideas that we need to take a go after. But really, what I think keeps us grounded is our mission, being a brand of the people for the people. We realize there's so much more we can do as a brand, whether it's our uh, carbon net zero goals for 2030, or how we continue to evolve as we listen and connect to our consumers, how we excite new product and how we do things. And there's a lot of work aligned to our vision, and really to go back to that original consumer experience I had there,
Mm-hmm.
that we should never be happy that we solve their what they want. We should be always trying to give them more ways, whether it's how they personalize their product, how they do how they use Croc sandals for different things, and how they really push that. So there's a giant workload there that we're so passionate about, to be more meaningful to our consumers, that keeps us really grounded.
Thanks, Eric. So I want to know that story of Justin Bieber. Can you tell us more about that photo and that
Well, I mean,
collaboration?
Justin Bieber's just been such a great collaboration partner for us. We've done some things with him, and just so fun. You know, and he took. I just love, again, seeing how people interpret our brand and how they interpret their brand, the Drew House brand, in this case, and really take, you know, just the amazing things that we can do with color in our product, and then put his own personality on it, and then, you know, images like this or something else. So he's been a fantastic partner for us. So it's a lot of fun to get to work with these people and see how, again, it really helps you imagine, like, oh, I didn't realize people looked at our brand like this, and you know, that was a unique colorway and those types of things. So it's a lot
So
of
he
fun.
really brought his input. He contributed to what that shoe is. Okay, that's so
Yep.
interesting. And is the other? I mean, how does that usually work? Those collaboration? Is it something that you reach out to those celebrities for collaboration? Do they reach out to you? How does that usually
Well,
work?
the collaboration phenomenon is such across the industry and people working with things, that it's almost like just a network of connections. So it's a combination of all those things, but people talking and saying, oh, this, and you know, I think for sure, I think where we are, a lot of people come to us, but we're looking for partners too, because there's ways that we want to imagine things and go there. So, and talk to our consumers. So it's a giant network of fun collaboration. I think it started really in the music industry, right, where you can see more and more people
Yeah.
taking, I'm an individual person doing music, I'm collaborating with them, I'm collaborating with them, and collaborating with them, and that whole kind of ecosystem of where we are today is really quite fun.
Well, thanks, Eric. Thanks for taking the time to, you know, walk us through to the innovation process. Really insightful. I want to open. You know, we got about a little bit less than 20 minutes. I just want to open these to the questions that came here. So I'm gonna answer a few live here. The first one, it is around sustainability. Oh, I just lost it here. I got a poll just came out here. Is there any effort to make Crocs more environmentally sustainable, perhaps using recycled materials? So,
Yeah, so I you know, we're really I'm passionate about this. It's one of the more exciting things, I think, that we're working on as a brand. Uh, you know, recycled materials is definitely one avenue we're looking at. We do use manufacturing scrap in our product, and do some of that. So we've been working on that for years because of the technical details. I think it makes it interesting. Um, we're looking at all aspects of sustainability, whether it's, our packaging that we use and the materials that we use. And to me and our team, in particular manufacturing, we're really focused on looking at bio-based materials to make our product. And we've been working in collaboration with Dow for years to try to build some things that we can take our Crosslight, our amazing material, keep all the properties that the consumer loves, and start to convert it to a more green solution to really take our carbon footprint of our classic, which is already very, very low, and making it even lower. So I think more to come on the sustainability, but we're on a good pace, and we're really pleased with where we're going. And you can always go to our website and see some more of the information we're working on, but we have ambitious goals there, and we're very confident we're going to get there.
And I think Margot and the team has shared the link to the sustainability report. But there's this pledge is it for 2030? Correct? Is that you pledging?
What's that?
There's a pledge from Crocs.
Yeah, net zero 2030.
Yeah, zero 2030. Okay, fascinating. Another question, this one regarding collaboration. Collaboration is the ultimate, but takes a lot of trust if you don't own your own factories. So the 3D data go back and forth and is used directly with the manufacturers. So basically, are you using the data that you generate directly with the manufacturers?
Yeah, this is a great question, and it does require a lot of trust. And I'm real proud to say that we consider a lot of our factories partners, and part of our team. So when we do specifically collaborations, we do them at some of our longest term factories. So one factory that does the majority of them has been with us for 15 years, and we have long, deep relationships, and we've been collaborative with them, and we have controls in place for sure. Just to what I think the question was alluding to is like things leaking and those type of things, and we've had years of doing that just to protect our own IP and those pieces. So it is something that we're definitely aware of, and we think we have great controls in place. But more than anything, we have great partners.
Another question, I guess this one is from Saphir. Channeling with my nickeling here. When it comes to manufacturing, what opportunities do you see coming from the 3D printing space, maybe as a way to reduce your carbon footprint? No pun intended.
Yeah, that's a great question, and I would tell you, like I said, we were 3D from the very beginning. So we bought our first 3D printers in house for design evaluation, but way back in like 2007, we started building our own 3D printing labs. It has a huge future because there are sustainability things. Some of the easy ones that you have now is just the lack of sampling, and you can imagine sampling being shipped back and forth and those type of things. So using renderings and combination of 3D prints. We're always working with different partners in the spirit of open innovation in terms of trying to find out how we can put things in there, because the 3D printing world unlocks so much. So, I think it has a huge future in the industry, and I think that the paths are starting to get closer and converge to where you can see being able to do componentry that's made with maybe recycled materials and those type of things, and print pieces of it in there, and be much more manufacturing enabled. I think up until now, the cost and some of the material uses hasn't been too conducive about, but we look really close.
Yeah.
And we've done things in terms of with 3D printing where we can actually recreate the final product at the end in terms of weight, cushioning, and then that actually eliminates a lot of samples and that type of thing, because we can actually get fit test and some initial comfort test on our product with a 3D print, as opposed to going through all the processes of making a new product.
Wow, so you can do fit test on a virtual shoe, basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
you gotta give us a little bit more about that. How does that work?
Well, we worked in we work with several 3D printing companies and several material companies, and when we first started using 3D prints, it was purely for aesthetics. What's the volume of the footwear going to look like? What's it going to get there? We could print some colors and those type of things. but we continually kept finding, especially when you're doing sandals and things like that, that are really how they look on the foot are really important, that you couldn't put a hard 3D print on. So we challenged the innovation team to go out and say, okay, how can we get to a print that mimics the end product? So, you know, using some very inexpensive printers and some you know, common materials that are on the market through mechanical engineering and through you know, taking our product and what makes that and really kind of understanding the buildup of it, we were able to recreate some geometries within the product that we can go ahead and get that on people's feet.
Well, that's
it's been a huge unlock for us in terms of speed, quality, lack of sampling,
exactly.
all the things above.
And talking about lack of sampling, is there any number that you're able to share in terms of how much you've reduced in terms of percentage of samplings compared to before?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think when we look at percentage of sampling that we've reduced, I don't have 100% accurate what the number is. It's been really significant over the years. The reason I don't have a number right now is just because of the fact that we're growing and we're doing more product, more things. But you know, anecdotally, it's well over 50% the amount of samples we created to product over the course of either a development cycle or a sales cycle or those type of things. It will really go there. And I think, you know, one of the things that we've seen in the last couple of years specifically is that more people are willing to look at digital assets as opposed to. So I think that there's still more work to be done on the sampling.
There's a couple of more questions around. So we're talking about innovation. At some point in time, I saw questions about innovation versus fast fashion. Okay, when there's collaboration. So can you tell us more about what I can see here is one question. We're going to take the second part of it, which is the focus is on creating Crocs gadgets. These are all short-lived. How does that relate to bringing down your footprint?
Yeah.
Hard question from Nicolene.
Yeah, tough question. I like it. So I think that the gadget piece, we agree. And I think it is how we continually innovate, how we manufacture these things so that they are part of our current ecosystem of building. So being back to the modularity and those type of things. I think that there's a real opportunity as we look at these things is like the initial collaboration could be small in volume. And then, as I said, we learn off of that and try to figure out and be more anticipative things of how we can do that. So could it be things that we can then work on upcycling and reusing and those type of things. So it's definitely a body of work, and I understand the question. I think it's a really good question.
But it's interesting because at the same time, I've seen where those conversations, you know, with other broader members of your team, but some of those collaboration becomes really collectibles, and they live a second life or a third life. They get traded, you know, some we sell them on eBay, taking values, etc.
Yeah.
So which is different, I would say, from, for example, an H&M fast fashion. It's a model you wear one night, etc. So.
I think that's a great point. And I think, you know, too, if you think about the collaborations, it's a very small subset. When we look at what we're building in our product lines, we're focused on, you know, less gadgetry and more of like sustainable, producible designs through the bioresin usage and those type of things.
Yeah, and we talk about Crocs, but also the G-Bits, you know, which is an entire other space where there's so much creativity actually coming from the community of users. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so I think that the charms and our G-Bits charms have been a really big unlock for us on the personalization. So what it allows us to do is really identify with our consumers, and that they can take our core object, our classic clog, or our different sandals that they're and they can express themselves with the charms in a way that's unique to them, which I think it drives a lot of interesting and a lot of consumer benefit in that sense.
Checking if there's any other question here. Oh, something very clear. What software are you using today? Is it Grasshopper? What with all the different software available? I'm just curious. Thanks. That's a question from Rob.
Rob, we use a lot of different softwares across there when we go into this. Our main partner is Dassault Systems, where we work with them to build some of our more ambitious parametric design goals in the future.
Okay, great. Checking if there's any other question. Nicolene, Crocs could do great in the NFT market, but those styles can just be digital. All right, well, let's talk about that.
Yeah, I think it's the NFT market is so exciting. It's so it's so now, and something that we clearly didn't anticipate, right? Because it is just such a moment of the culture, and I think it's a great call out. I mean, we're definitely looking at how we can fit in there and how we can be meaningful, and you know, like I always said, drive back to being consumer meaningful, not just reactive to the piece of the day. So.
Absolutely. Well, excited to see Crocs moving into the metaverse and launching their first NFT drops soon. All right, I guess we come to the end of these questions. I would like Erik to really thank you a lot for spending the time with us. I know you're very busy, keeping with the demand, which is always a good thing, but still keeping the demand. So really thank you for sharing, your work and your vision about innovation. And wish you a great day. And thanks everyone for joining this webcast. This is the last one of the year, so we were finishing with Crocs, and we'll be back in January. In the meantime, wish everyone good day, good night. Thank you.
Thank you.